Hey, it's Josiah, and this is Horror Month. That's right, for the month of October, Jackal and I are talking about all things spooky here at Fruitless, and after our music episode last week, we're moving back to film. This week, we're talking about Jennifer's Body.
The trees, I will find you.
Panned upon release, but reappraised as a feminist classic in recent years, Jennifer's Body is a really fascinating movie and a really rich text. On today's episode, we'll be getting into all of it. The war on terror imagery, the gender politics of the film, the failure of a marketing campaign around the film's release, and a specific Girardian reading of the film provided by today's guest, Vita Breva. Vita is a longtime Twitter and Letterboxd mutual of mine and someone I've been itching to have on the show for a while. She is incredibly insightful and has a lot of thoughts on this movie specifically. But before we move on to the episode, though, I do need to say that you can support this show on Patreon. For a mere $3 per month, you get access to a whole catalog of exclusive episodes, as well as the occasional deleted scene from a main feed episode, and access to the Fruitless Discord. If you're not quite ready to support the show on Patreon, consider just leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps people discover the show. And hey, I might read your review at the top of an episode, so that's fun. All right, and with that all out of the way, let's get on with the episode. You are listening to Fruitless, a podcast hosted by me, Josiah Sutton. This is episode 49, the 9/11 Girlboss, featuring Vita Breva, where we discuss Jennifer's Body. All right, well, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Fruitless. I am joined with my co-host for this month, Jackal. Hello, Jackal.
Hello, everyone. Once again, happy Halloween, happy October.
And we are joined today by Vita Breva. Hello.
Hello, everyone. It's me, Vita Breva, everyone's favorite deranged Catholic transsexual.
Hell yeah. And, actually, real quick, for somebody who doesn't know anything about you, Vita, why don't you kind of introduce yourself, I guess?
Well, I've worn many hats over the years. Writer, journalist, legal scholar, historian, working on History MA right now. And I've done 2 episodes with the podcast Girls Guts Jallo with the beautiful Annie Rose Malamut, who also did an episode about Jennifer's Body.
Oh, sick.
I didn't do that episode. I did the ones about the Passion of the Christ and Wicker Man. So this is the second podcast I've been on, third podcast episode I'm recording. So I guess I can add podcaster to my repertoire.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of why I reached out to you was actually a Letterboxd review you had done of Jennifer's Body that I really, really liked. I don't know. I think it expressed what I was like. I was having a hard time getting the movie the first time I saw it, and I think you had a really good reading on it and stuff. So I'm excited to get into that. But before we get into it, I should do kind of the synopsis of the film for anybody who hasn't seen it and is okay with having it getting spoiled, because we're going to do that.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. This is your last chance if you don't want this movie from 2009 to be spoiled for you.
2009, that was just yesterday, though.
That was right.
Oh, yeah, no, totally. No, absolutely, guys. Yeah, totally.
I hate how time moves. All right, Jennifer's Body. So, in the small town of Devil's Kettle, Minnesota, 2 high schoolers and best friends named Jennifer and Needy go to see indie rock band Low Shoulder perform at a local dive bar. Jennifer, played by Megan Fox, is stereotypically beautiful and popular, while Needy, played by Amanda Seyfried, is insecure and unpopular. During the show, the dive bar catches fire and burns down, killing dozens of people in the process. In the parking lot outside, the band members killers invite Jennifer into their van, where they drive off to attempt to sacrifice Jennifer to Satan in order to become as popular as Maroon 5. They do this under the misconception that Jennifer is a virgin. Because she is not, she's instead transformed into a succubus with superhuman abilities and a need to eat human flesh in order to maintain those abilities. She goes to Needy's home to try to eat her, but can't bring herself to do it, instead trying to eat a rotisserie chicken and then immediately spewing black hellish vomit. She leaves and instead devours a foreign exchange student who is presumed to have died in the fire. The next morning at school, Jennifer pretends nothing happened and begins to act more cruel than usual. That same day, she lures a grieving football player into the woods and devours him. A month later, Jennifer accepts a date with an emo boy at school and lures him to an abandoned house to, again, devour him. Meanwhile, Needy is having sex with her boyfriend Chip when she is startled by disturbing visions of Jennifer. She returns home to find Jennifer in her bed. Jennifer kisses Needy, but Needy demands an explanation for her behaviors and soon learns the truth. Needy then goes to the school library's occult section and tries to recruit Chip in a plan to stop Jennifer, but Chip, focused primarily on the upcoming spring formal, doesn't believe her. Needy dumps him and begs him not to go to the formal. On the way to the formal, Chip is intercepted by Jennifer, who tells him that Needy was cheating on him. She takes him to an abandoned swimming pool and begins to eat him when Needy arrives to stop Jennifer. Chip eventually impales Jennifer with a pool skimmer, but she ultimately escapes, leaving Chip to die in Needy's arms. Enraged, Needy breaks into Jennifer's bedroom and stabs her in the heart with a utility knife. At this moment, Jennifer's mother enters the room and believes that Needy has murdered Jennifer. Needy is sent to an asylum, but in the final scene of the film, we discover that she was bitten by Jennifer, giving her some of Jennifer's powers. She uses them to escape the asylum and, during the final credits, brutally murder the members of Low Shoulder. And that's Jennifer's Body. Well, so let's do real quick, what's like everyone's individual relationship to this movie? Like, how many times have you seen it? And I don't know, what do you think of it? Initial thoughts? Vita?
Well, I was in college when this came out. I didn't see it then. This is going to be a subject of discussion, I think, but I think I was sort of taken in by the negative press it was getting, as well as the sort of anti-Megan Fox, hate train that everyone was on at the time. So it's just sort of like, that doesn't look interesting. Over the subsequent years, I noticed it get like really popular on Tumblr. Like you see all the time that gif of you're eating people. I'm eating boys. Oh yeah. Reblogged over and over again, which isn't even in the film. It's a trailer only scene, but I watched it thinking it would be this, sort of Girlboss type film. And it really, it is a feminist film. It is an empowering film, but not in the good for her, for the eating people thing.
Yeah, it's not a girl boss film.
Yeah, so it's sort of stuck in my craw in a weird way. I needed to ruminate on it for a while. Yeah. What really clicked for me was like, when I mentioned this in the review, right after coming out of the pandemic, I watched it again with a friend of mine who also is, millennial woman, was in high school during this era depicted in the film, and we really liked it, and we both sort of related to it. And that's when I got sort of the idea of, oh, that's what this film's about. And then I watched it again with Annie's stream for Girl Scouts Jallo last October and had an absolute blast. So yeah, I've really come around on this film, done a complete 180 in terms of how I view it. And I think it's really great. Has its flaws, but it's funny, it's sexy, and actually does have a lot to say.
Jackal, what's your relationship with the film?
Yeah, this is a little interesting because the movie came out when I was, I was not legally allowed to go see horror movies yet. So, that came, around at a point where I probably saw advertising for it. I probably saw, we'll get into how the studios, the polite term is how they misunderstood the intention of the movie. And
that is a very charitable way to say that. Yes.
That is the most charitable interpretation that you could possibly give for how they completely bungled this. But I probably saw that, but it didn't really make much of an impact on me. I knew of the movie sort of the same way that, Vita said that Tumblr GIFs. That's kind of my knowledge of it was, oh yeah, this is like that quirky horror movie that.
Oh, you pronounced it with a hard G. We're going to have problems.
I'm sorry. It's so ingrained in my brain. I can't stop it.
Sorry,
You're gonna
carry
have
on.
to do the Clockwork Orange thing to me, but to get
to
that
fix
out of
it,
my
to
that's
say
the only
make it
way.
GIF.
That's the only way to fix me at this point.
I'm a GIF partisan, but yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Jack.
Oh my god, GIF partisan. Get out of here. Anyway, yes,
Tumblr
I
GIFs,
knew of the
yeah.
movie through GIFs online. Say that with the most disrespect that I can muster. And also, there was a clip that kind of went a little bit viral. Was one of the actors in this movie who plays the coach. He's the voice actor for Patrick from SpongeBob, and there's a clip of him saying, "I'm going to cut off your nutsack and nail it to my door." And that was my, maybe I should go see this movie. I think that this sounds like the kind of movie I'd be interested in. This sounds like the kind of movie I'd be interested in. And at some point during the pandemic, I thought, you know what? I've been meaning to get to this. Let me watch Jennifer's Body. And I had a really good time with it. And it was after I wasn't aware of like the hate train that Megan Fox had.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Centered around her. I found that out after, and about the nature of this movie, because I just kind of assumed that, like a lot of, horror cult classics, it was something that came out at the wrong time. That I didn't know about the exact nature of how badly this movie was advertised, and how they basically screwed this movie from the start with using the perception of Megan Fox at the time to do the Transformers movies as, this up and coming, sex symbol, as to advertise that that's the entire essence of this movie. I didn't know any of that when I first watched it. And I think this second watch, for knowing all of that, kind of recontextualizes, adds a lot more context to not necessarily the movie, but the movie's wider relationship in horror broadly, and in terms of feminist film study, with how the advertising of the movie proves proves like the thesis statement of the movie.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
Yeah. I think we'll definitely be getting into that, because I was thinking the same thing while reading
I
about
was
this.
reading these reviews of it. I was reading reactions. I know that we were all kind of dumber in 2009, but I didn't think that we were that dumb. It kind of seems pretty unsubtle, but
Oh man,
The aughts were such a dumb era, just like so dumb.
truly.
I mean, a lot's gotten worse, but
Yeah.
we're better in a lot of ways.
oh yeah. As dumb as the 2020s have been, if you look at early aughts stupidity, it kind of makes you in some ways gracious about how dumb media takes are very annoying now. But man, there was something about early aughts media takes.
They're pretty bad.
Even for professional film critics, it makes you wonder, you get paid for this?
Yeah. Well, we'll have to get back to the Roger Ebert review about this film, but
Oh,
Christ
God, yeah.
almighty.
Absolutely. Please, I really want to talk about that review.
What a man ahead of his time for recognizing it was a good movie, and completely wrong about any of the reasons it's good.
Roger, I love you, buddy, but Jesus Christ, man.
He's at least honest with his view of films. I'll give him that.
I'll give him that. Yeah.
I forget which film it was. I think it was Hellraiser 2. He was just I fell asleep during this.
I appreciate the honesty. He isn't trying to. I believe in every review that he did. I believed this is his 100% genuine opinion about this movie, and he's approaching these movies as where they are as art and meeting them where they are.
Yeah.
That doesn't stop him from having some just
real god awful takes.
You'll read a really good review from him where he gets it. It's like, okay, yeah, Roger, I get everything that you're saying here. You're laying down. I get it, 100%. I'm with you. And then you read another review, and you'll wonder, okay? No, this has to be from someone else who writes for the website. That's Roger Ebert. Oh my god.
Yes. Putting a pin in Ebert. We will come back and visit that. My relationship with the film is pretty short, because I actually only saw it for the first time last year. I don't know. I think why I didn't see it. Well, a number of reasons would be I was a good evangelical kid when this movie came out, and it looks scary. It looks scary and sexy, and you're not supposed to watch that. So I didn't do that. And then later on, I think there would have also just been, in general, like kind of a bias that I try to get over, of just like an automatic dislike of things that are clearly marketed to teen girls, which is 100% a misogyny thing to work on. I try to work on it, but I just like, it's just automatically, like the slang and stuff. So even when I watched it for the first time, a lot of the slang and shit in the movie just drove me nuts.
Well, like that's Diablo Cody.
That's
though.
her
That's
thing.
not
Yeah,
how
yeah.
people talked, in high school in the 2000s.
Oh, for sure. No.
She has a very quirky way of writing that's, it's almost insulting to compare it to Joss Whedon, but it's, very distinct. It's like, okay, yeah, this character talking is a Diablo Cody character,
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you said that, Vita, because I was tempted I was afraid recording this. Do I want to make that comparison? Because I don't mean that badly. I just mean that it's a very distinct writing style. It doesn't. It's like it's a hyper real, not hyper. It's a very specifically. Yeah, like it's a hyper real stylized. It's normal people do not talk like this.
No, it's like high school slang turned up to a camp level.
Exactly.
Like it's the type of slang you hear in high school movies, not necessarily even actual high schoolers ever saying, but like you're like 80s high school movies or something like that, but then dialed up to obnoxious levels.
I think that's why the movie also wasn't, another reason why it wasn't well received, because it is camp. It is, sort of stylized and artificial and aware of its artificiality, and lets you know it's aware.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you want me to mention this now, but like the narrative structure of it is like really bizarre when you think about it. It
is.
So it's told, at the end of everything chronologically by the narrator, Needy, and then it's a flashback, and then there's a flashback within the flashback, and then when Jennifer's telling a story of what happened to her, there's a flashback within that. So
the whole movie's a flashback. Yeah. I think that's the thing about it, is it was campy and played up, but it also was doing interesting stuff. And I really see how a general audience going into this blind would just not know what to do with it.
It was just too dumb for the era of Bush.
Yeah. But yeah, I watched it last year, and then this year I wanted to revisit it. So here we are. And yeah, I think like because I didn't watch it as a teenager, the thing that stuck out to me the most when I watched this was the 9/11 stuff. Like that was the most like just couldn't unsee that at all. Like I don't know. It comes out so strong. It's kind of funny that so few reviews of it seem to mention it. I kind of am taken off guard by that with some of the like writing from the time, and even in the reappraisal, there's a lot of emphasis on the feminist reading, which is absolutely there, but not a lot on it being a war on terror film. And I think it is explicitly a war on terror film.
No, yeah, and that was sort of my thesis of my review that you praised so wonderfully. Thank you. But this movie is kind of about, millennial trauma fatigue. We're the generation whose teenage years started with Columbine and Y2K, and then 9/11, DC Sniper, Anthrax Scare, war in Afghanistan, war in Iraq. You had the dot-com bubble hitting the older millennials, then, Great Recession hitting, the sort of core millennials at the end of the, born at the end of the 80s. And just sort of this feeling of, everything sucks, and we're so used to it sucking that we're almost tired of commenting on how it sucks.
Yeah, it's almost boring that it sucks. Like,
yeah. But it's pervasive in the film. Just like have like a little counter with like every time you see an American flag. Obviously the 9/11 memorial shooters.
Yep.
I don't think there's enough in the North Tower. The images of people screaming and running and burning. And,
my girlfriend pointed out on this viewing that they literally climb out through a window. They literally jump out of a window.
Yeah, no.
Like it's
when Needy is like zoned out the next day, one of the kids is like, "Oh, it's PTSD. My dad was in Operation Enduring Freedom."
Yeah. It's just like so heavy-handed with it almost that I've been interested by not a lot of people pointing that out, and I think it also helps make sense of even the feminist reading too when we get to that, because I think I think like when it's the film is pretty commonly framed as a kind of like a twist on the rape revenge film, which it absolutely is. But one thing I was a little taken off guard when I was like reading those reappraisals was that, okay, a rape revenge film though is that the rapist gets murdered. And that happens at the very end, but that's not who the victims of Jennifer are. And so it's a different type of film than just that. It's definitely the trauma, but it's not like it's not necessarily a revenge film. It's a lashing out at others. It's more complicated than that, I guess.
Yeah. I think that's why on my first view, I didn't like it, because I thought, oh, this is going to be, her getting revenge on men. And it's like, yeah, but none of these guys are like marked for death in any way that makes sense in like the logic of a horror movie. You don't see one of them, lighting up a joint and then getting murdered. You don't see one of them sneaking off with his girlfriend to go fuck in the woods and then get murdered. They're all kind of random and all kind of as innocent as any, teenage boy can be. But that's the point. That's the brilliance of it. And, the people who are victimized rarely then, enact perfect revenge. Usually they're just sort of acting out to the people on their level or below them, perpetuating the cycle. And that's why Needy is the ultimate heroine, because when she is victimized by Jennifer, when she gets bitten and then basically takes on all the blame for everything she's done, because not only is she caught killing Jennifer by Jennifer's mom, she probably is going to get blamed for all these murders, because it's like, oh, a bunch of teens are murdered, and here we catch one teen killing another. That's your killer, folks.
Yep, we found it.
And then she's giving an insane story about, demon possession and gets locked up forever. So she's this, I don't know, I'm jumping ahead to a sort of Girardian analysis that I wanted to do, but she's she's a scapegoat, but then she takes that violence back to the source and breaks the cycle by killing Low Shoulder.
Well, and I think it's interesting too, because she when she's like, oh, I've been, I was bit, so I have the same powers or whatever. How does that manifest in the asylum though? It's still kicking around orderlies initially until she can finally break out and go and end the cycle. Actually enact revenge on who deserves it.
Yeah, and that's interesting, just sort of like narratively, like, because she doesn't say that she is a succubus now. She just sort of got some of their powers accidentally. She got some of Jennifer's powers. So she is a little meaner than she is in the story before that, but you don't know if it's just because, oh, she's been through a lot of shit. She's also
been through some shit, yeah.
Yeah. And is in an asylum, and is probably, around actually crazy people and on a bunch of meds she doesn't want to be on.
Yeah.
But then is she eating though? Does she have to eat people? Because she only eats the Pop-Tarts at the beginning and turns up her nose at the food that they slide through the door. But then again, it's hospital food, so ambiguous. But she's still changed by her trauma, but not made monstrous by it. I think that's a good analysis.
Yeah.
Or fully monstrous, at least.
Yeah. She's definitely like got it, and she's, acting out from it, but it's not like she's got it in more control, and she orients it toward some justice.
My one critique is I think that the end with killing the band, I wish that it wasn't just like the aftermath of the crime scene photos. I feel like they're despicable enough that we should have gotten a scene of them actually dying.
You should have reveled in it, have like a Fulci kind of, like the priest at the end of Don't Torture a Dog.
Like at the end, like that feels like a capstone of, all right, you've been through the muck of what this awful human being has wrought. Now you get to see their comeuppance, that classic the classic point of horror that not every horror should follow, horror movie or story should follow, but when it does, man, it works. And it works here, but it feels like it should have been a little bit more celebratory. Yeah.
Well, I think that actually though is kind of clever. I mean, because we've seen with Jennifer, we see all this explicit violence take place. But with Needy, we don't see the violence taking place. It's, sort of off camera. And
Right.
I think that sort of matches with this film's sort of like message of, Needy's violence isn't selfish the way Jennifer's is. It's just. And you don't need to sort of
Right.
see it in like this sort of, lurid fashion. It's just, what needed to be done was done.
Right. Thematically, the point is not to revel in it. It's that justice has finally been done, and that's it. It doesn't linger with it the way that Jennifer's, murders through the movie are, for the most part. I think that the only off-screen one is Ahmet. I think that's the only off-screen one.
Yeah.
The rest are shown very, luridly. So yeah, no, that's a very good point.
Yeah, it makes me think of a very different movie, but at the end of Come and See, they have the scene where they're drenching the Nazis in gasoline and they're about to burn them alive, and then the woman comes up with a rifle and just shoots them before they do it. Just shoots the Nazis, and she's like in like a real like, we're not going to do this. We're not going to revel in this. We're just going to do cold justice.
We're not going to lower ourselves to their level of enjoying the
cruelty,
the base pleasure of being cruel to someone. This is a evil person and they cannot be in the world, so you just remove them, and that's it. You don't revel in it. You don't get that the same way that they got out of torturing and victimizing you. So yeah, no, that's a very good point. I just hated. Well, you're supposed to hate them, but man,
I hate those
the I hate them. I hate them so much.
They are so scummy and shitty, and that song really sucks. I really hate it.
I'm so bad.
I'm so glad. Okay, the song is my favorite joke in this whole movie. And I think that was the song was what made me on my first viewing finally realize that there were a lot of jokes in this movie that I wasn't getting, because they didn't hit me as jokes. They were like subtle ones. And it was the third time the song shows up, because I didn't mention this in the synopsis. So for anyone listening, the band Low Shoulder song Through the Trees becomes the unofficial anthem of the town of Devil's Kettle in the wake of surviving the Great Dive Bar fire. And it gets played so much in the movie, it's nauseating, and it just sounds like the most like daughtery ass like thing you hear on the radio in 2009 song.
The trees, I will find you, I will heal the ruins left inside you, 'cause I'm still here.
It's just all of them shoved into one song. The like meaningless kind of emo lyrics, the like, yeah, it's a pointless song.
But it is also foreshadowing, though. The memories of when I had my best friend. We made a mistake, dear. Your shadow hanging over me. There's a lot of foreshadowing in this. I noticed for the first time last night when I did the rewatch, the pinball machine that Needy in the bar briefly plays on is just called Fire. And there's a Low Shoulder sticker on the toilet as they climb out.
There are so many jokes that reward a second viewing with this movie, because there are like little foreshadowing or jokes or whatever that are being made before you will get them. Like, you need to watch it a second time to like. In the like it, the film opens with her in the asylum before it does the flashback, right? When she's in the, she's shoved in the like isolated room, the radio starts playing just a couple piano notes. And if you've seen the movie before, it's the chorus of Through the Trees.
It's the Muzak version, yeah.
And Kelly didn't remember the song from the movie the last time we watched it, so she was baffled that I started laughing out of nowhere. And she's just like, "Oh, it's an annoying song. What's the deal?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, it's It's even in the beginning. It's foreshadowing the song."
It's also accurate in a way. Like, if you lived in a small town, their local radio station will just play one song into the fucking ground.
Yes.
But I also noticed that the lead singer, he never gets the town's name right. He always calls it Devil's Lake. He has a crescent moon tattoo on his neck, and when they do the ritual sacrifice, he's like, "Sweet, a waning moon." or waxing moon, yeah. And Needy has a crescent moon in her bedroom, like little wall decoration. So
Oh,
a
wow.
lot of connections there. And his name's Nikolai Wolf, which, seems like, bargain brand omen antichrist name.
Yeah. That's bad guy in like a shitty Rapture book or something.
He's a Spawn villain in a throwaway episode of or throwaway issue. He's like a guy that he's so, I have a lot to say about Nikolai Wolf because he's so detestable, but like in a very specific way of he's a bargain bin antichrist villain, but he's also just so like encapsulates like a certain kind of early 2000s jerk that feels just ever present through like a period of time in pop culture.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure was the point of him, is to lampoon that and connect him with it. But he is such like, and it works with, the writing of this movie is fantastic. It really pushes how it, in the hands of a lesser writer, him being this overtly evil would be kind of it would be a little much, but here it's handled in a way where it puts him down that no, he's just like the worst. Imagine like the worst dude you've ever met in passing. Like I've known guys like this in passing from when I was in high school through college, and it was like these are the guys where you talk to them for less than 5 minutes, and it's instantly, oh my god, yeah, I never want to speak or see you again.
Yeah, a single conversation, and you're aware of there are probably allegations about you.
It's like, oh man, yeah. If I Google your name,
allegations.
How many local news stories is there about like a court case? That's this guy.
Yeah, if Nikolai Wolf had not been brutally murdered in 2009, then circa like 2016-17, there would have been a whole bunch of stories about him and groupies of a dubious age surfacing online right around that time.
Yep.
And now he would be an anti-cancer culture darling of the right. And play exclusively at I don't know, and Turning Point USA conferences. That would be the trajectory of Nikolai Wolf's career. I did have a question, and this is, I think, is going to expose an age gap between me and you two. All right. The reason why they sacrificed Jennifer was so that they could be as big as Maroon 5.
Yeah.
Was Maroon 5 really that big back in 2009?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's one of those things that's like inexplicable. It's like it's like McDonald's music. It's like, no one's going to say this is good, and I don't know anyone who would say this is my favorite except like children who've only eaten McDonald's, maybe, but
there's some Maroon 5 songs I'll go to bat to say good, but favorite is where you lost me. You're right.
To be clear, I don't dislike Maroon 5, but when I heard that,
no,
really?
They were huge.
Well,
for better or for worse.
This also might just be I'm very dumb when it comes to what music is popular, because for me, what determines if a song is popular is, oh, I like that song. That's popular to me. That
itself is a generational divide, I think, actually. I think you can get away with not knowing what the popular songs are now easier.
Yeah.
Because of online.
Everything's streaming now. When I was in college, I knew what songs were popular because the frat houses were blasting them nonstop out of their speaker systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And the local radio stations. Remember radio? Remember FM
yes.
radio?
Oh, I hear that's like the thing that the old folks used to listen to.
That was Spotify that we used to have to tune into.
I heard that's kind of like Spotify, but it's in your car always, and you have to use a little these. It's like a little circle that you turn from one end to the other. You got to find what it's kind of like streaming, but it's through these things called radio waves. I don't know. It's pretty. It sounds pretty
medieval.
If you wanted to know what song just played, you couldn't hold up, the app to the speaker. You'd have to like call in the radio station, be, hey, what song just played? And they'd be like, oh, what time? It was like 15 minutes ago, the one that went
Once you get to the internet age, like I did a lot of Googling the lyrics I could hear, which that also is an an antique itself, because that was when Google worked.
It doesn't work anymore. It now just thinks that you're asking for recipes that will absolutely kill you if you try to make them. That's pretty much it. You can just get the only app that does what it's advertised to do, Shazam, and there you have your song. Also, the soundtrack of this movie is very, very of its time, and I mean, I like it, but it's like this is so 2000, like early 2000s.
I almost wonder if that's part of the kind of reappraisal of the film, because I don't know if we had formally said it, but yeah, so in 2009 the movie didn't do very well, and it was about 2018 is like when like there were some critics that were starting to put stuff out being like, hey, maybe this movie was kind of good actually. I think part of that reappraisal might have been enough distance from the 2000s that you can see the pastiche better, because I don't think you can see that very well. You could maybe it might have been harder to see that in the 2000s, like in 2009. Recognize how well it is of that era.
It's such a lampooning is harsher, but it almost encapsulates like an aesthetic of the 2000s so well that it's like if someone tried to do that in the 70s, or you tried to do that now. What is like the aesthetic tone and musical tastes heightened up to camp of the 2020s? It wouldn't, if you try to release it now, it's going to come across as stilted and weird and off-putting, versus the 20 years after it would come out, it comes across more as this perfect artifact that is an artifact of its time in the best way. That's kind of how Jennifer's Body feels, in the way that in the way that it's been looked at now. And I don't think that releasing that in the time that is the norm, it comes across as, it's like when reading old reviews about it, you can't help but be frustrated that it feels like they're not really seeing it, and maybe it's because of that it's so 2000s that it feels like a parody when it's camp, but it's not a parody. I don't know if Eddie, what I said just makes sense.
No, I got you. Yeah.
I think also like, sort of the distance was necessary, because like imagine if they made a movie like right now that was just suffused with, the trauma of COVID. And also like dealing with sexuality, gender, sexual violence, and, also was horribly mismarketed. Just like if the marketing was all, hey, this actress, I don't know, Jenna Ortega's in it, and you might see her naked. And everyone rushes, and it's like a lot smarter than it was advertised as. Everyone's going to walk out and be like, oh, that wasn't sexy at all.
Yeah. And then if you made that and you just drenched it in Zoomer slang, like to a point, it was just unbearable.
But like fake Zoomer slang.
Yeah. Like heightened nonsense internet slang.
Oh gosh!
But in 10 years, I would maybe like it.
Yeah. It'd be reevaluated as a masterpiece.
There probably is this movie, and we just don't know. We just can't figure out. There probably
being
exists
written right now. Now, as we speak, it's being formulated.
Well, I haven't seen it yet, but Diablo Cody did write that.
Lisa Frankenstein.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but it's gotten not too good reviews, but I'm seeing a lot of people defending it also very ardently. So,
we got another Jennifer's Body going here?
Maybe.
I do not believe people that did not like Lisa Frankenstein. I respect to the haters and losers, but I'm not. You're wrong about that movie. It's awesome. It's okay to be wrong. This is a free country, but that movie rocks.
Okay, well, I need to watch it then.
Hell yeah.
It's so good.
Okay, maybe we should go into like how this movie got sabotaged in its release.
Yes, yes.
Oh, please.
Michael Bay, history's greatest monster.
Yes. Oh my God. So, a couple reasons this movie did not do well. The first one is, as we've alluded to a couple times now, it was marketed as this is the movie where Megan Fox is hot, and it's for dudes to come and see Megan Fox be hot. And like, that's not what the movie really is. Not that she's not like, not that there isn't sexual stuff around Megan Fox in the movie, but that's not really what the movie is. But yeah, so it just completely sabotaged it on that front. And then that was combined with the complete like attempted character assassination of Megan Fox at this time by Michael Bay. I had never actually read that open letter that like a couple crew members on Transformers had addressed at Megan Fox, and it's horrendous. And the reason Michael Bay set his sights on Megan Fox was that she said a frankly not that offensive thing about him in an interview, and just kind of sicked his guys on her and tried to destroy her career.
And yeah, I mean, she did say, quote, he wants to be like Hitler on his sets, and he is. He's a nightmare to work for, but when you get him away from set and he's not in director mode, I kind of really enjoy his personality because he's so awkward, so helplessly awkward. It's like, yeah, that's a bit rough, but it's like, hey, it's the movie business, get a thicker skin, Michael Bay. And also, you're Michael Bay, you're not... You're not like Tartarovsky here, or, David Lynch. You're making movies about giant CGI transforming robots that punch each other and explode.
It's not that it's like not, it's of course it's not nice what she says, but also like she's a 23-year-old actress at this time.
Yeah, it does.
And you're like a grown man.
Fun fact with relating to this and to the broader advertisement bungling of this movie, I think it was the director had asked why had they what was the tagline for this movie? Was it
Hell is a Teenage Girl, I believe?
No, not that one. There was one that they used on the theatrical release posters. What was it called?
Hold on. She's evil and not just high school evil. That's the poster I see on Wikipedia here.
There was a tagline that they used that was like Bad Boys Taste something. That was the one that they used for some release. And they asked, "Why are you using this?" And the executive, speaking like a caveman, said, "Megan Fox hot."
Of course.
Anyway, to more intelligent discussion.
So what was your guys' read of this? Because I'm the one lesbian in the room, albeit I wasn't consciously one in high school.
I don't know. My reading on this is, so obviously the sacrifice appears to be a pretty clear sexual assault allegory, and from there, I really liked that essay that you sent us that I will link in the show notes. I should just have that on hand.
Oh yeah. No, that one had a lot there.
There was a lot to chew on with that. So the essay is "I Eat Boys: Monstrous Femininity in Jennifer's Body" by Victoria Santamaria Poor. And it is a really good. I think it nails the missing piece, because like we had said with the gender and sexuality themes in this, like a lot of people clocked that there's a rape revenge thing going on here. But I think what was missing was understanding the fact that clearly Jennifer doesn't leave this as the heroine. Like she isn't like she's a victim and then victimizes, and what Ibor kind of plugs that into her framework is seeing Jennifer as like the neoliberal subject, the post-feminist, hypersexualized neoliberal subject that sees life as competition, that sees life in those like market terms. And so I think that actually really cracked the code for me too, of making sense of why she was going after needies, like men that Needy was attracted to, because I saw like, I mean, I think there's also the lesbian or like a queer reading of it that she's like trying to have her for herself or something. I don't know. But for me, that's the most obvious, is that, yeah, she's developed a sense of identity via her ability to consume, Well,
yeah. And Ibor makes the observation that even before she's, evil, not high school evil, she talks about sex in terms of consumption,
Yeah.
boys are morsels, and,
They're
she talks about,
salty.
they're salty. So there's, idea of consumption and food and sexuality as a means of controlling men and getting what she wants from them. The line about, she's underage but can get drinks by playing Hello Titty with the bartender.
Yeah.
But ultimately, though, I don't want to seem like too rad femmy with this, but like Jennifer's a teenage girl. And she thinks that she's using sex to get what she wants. And at a superficial level she is, but she's really being victimized. Needy has a line about her not having been a virgin since middle school. And Chris Pratt, who's in this,
sex pest cop Chris Pratt.
He's an adult who she's having sexual relations with and thinks that gives her free pass with the police. And she's a victimized and victimizing victim, really. And, Ebor doesn't use the word girl boss feminism, but she sort of says she's a girl boss feminist. She views life as a zero-sum game and, her achievement being women's achievement, but, in this very sort of selfish way. Whereas Needy is the radical. Needy is the one who ends up outside of the acceptable social norms. She's an outlaw, she's a fugitive, but she goes directly to the source of the problem. Yeah. And, sticks a knife in its heart. So that's the empowerment. And, and she's the one who's less concerned with her appearance, less, hyper feminine. A thing I noticed, and there's so many good details in this film that reward repeat viewings, but you look at pictures in rooms. Chip has as a screensaver a bunch of different pictures of Needy. Yeah. Needy has a picture of her and Chip and a picture of her and Jennifer, but not her and Chip and Jennifer together. She can have one or the other, but not both. Jennifer's room, all the pictures are of herself. Yeah, yeah. And what she's watching right before she gets murdered is like some infomercial about like a workout machine talking about, tightening up your glutes or whatever. So she's completely consumed by image.
I mean, and that's kind of built into just the title of the film, even. She sees herself as a body, primarily. I mean, there's the kind of, to me, one of the most memorable lines in the movie after she gets stabbed in the heart, after Needy stabs Jennifer in the heart, and she goes, "My tit." And then Needy goes, "No, your heart." Even in death, not fully understanding. No, this is the death of you as a person, not just your body, Yeah,
yeah. So what do we think of Jennifer and Needy in terms of, you mentioned the sort of jealousy, the competition. What do we think of their relationship? Was Jennifer ever Needy's friend? Was the romantic attraction mutual, one-sided? Because I think there's a lot of ambiguity there, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that because, yeah. And I think that was what Diablo Cody talked about, that sort of extreme closeness between female friends, bordering on romantic, and how it also sort of easily merges into, sort of parasitic and codependent.
I think there's a bunch of different ways to read their relationship. I think I have to believe that Jennifer was Needy's friend at one point, you know what I mean? And maybe even up until she becomes a succubus and all that. But I think that she just has a really cruel expression of love that kind of comes out in light of the environment she's in. You know what I mean? I think that, for instance, her policing Needy's appearance frequently is to her an act of love, because as a woman you need to look like this. I'm helping you, sir, live up to the roles that are around you. I'm doing that.
But that's also a subordinate role, and it's also her being concerned about her being competition with her.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I don't know. I think you can genuinely love someone, but also be a total dick to them.
Yeah.
I think that Jennifer definitely still thought that she was her friend. I think that is genuine. But see, because this is something that I think the movie does deserve repeat viewing, because my interpretation of their relationship, like at first viewing, I viewed it as being, more like more surface level. And then the second viewing, you can kind of view like the nuances with their relationship is that Jennifer does care about her. And I think that like it is clearly romantic. I think for both of them, I think that there is this attraction between them. But Jennifer, she loves her, but she cares about her, and to an extent she does love her. And I remember, I forget where I read it, but that like Megan played Jennifer as like a deeply closeted lesbian, which I think that when you watch that, you kind of see it.
And Fox herself is bisexual.
Yeah.
So,
it's toxic.
It's toxic. Oh,
It's definitely not a good relationship.
No, yeah. Regardless of the attraction that they both share, it's not good. It's very harmful, specifically to Needy. Jennifer's is not a good friend. Even if she thinks that she is, because I think that like the point that she wants to, in her mind, help Needy, but still Needy is always a subordinate to her. She's second. That's there's a hierarchy. You could like the people underneath you in the hierarchy, but they're still underneath you.
She thinks she thinks she's condescending to Needy's level to be her friend. She thinks that, in her mind, she's the queen bee, and she is being gracious by still being friends with Needy on some level. I think that this is very much sort of being a queer teenager in the 2000s in high school, because I talk to like younger people, like, half their freaking class is some level of queer, they know kids who are transitioning in high school, like actually taking hormones and stuff. It's like, there was like at my high school, like one kid who was like obviously gay, it didn't need to be stated, he had the lisp and everything and was, a total flamer. And, one or two girls that were kind of butch, and it was, rumored, but, they'd vehemently deny it. And sure enough, they went to college and were immediately open about it because they could be. But, if in the 2000s, it was so different. Like, we didn't have Chapel Rowan then. We didn't have Lady Gaga then. It's like,
Right.
2008, frickin' California voted against gay marriage.
Yeah.
It's like
that, which is, it's so weird to think just how wildly different the culture was towards LGBTQ sensibilities within, just within society, and then within, the media of that culture. Like it feels like it should be further away than what it actually is. At least, growing up afterward, you kind of feel, no, that's just accepted. Like going to high school as, a Gen Zer, like, I knew a bunch of openly queer people, trans, gay, bi, lesbian, like they're everywhere and open about it. But that wasn't the case just, like 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
Even 10 years. Because I was in high school in the beginning of the 2010s, but I was also in an evangelical environment. But even then, outside of it, it was starting to get normalized, but it wasn't. It was still pretty,
because even think like it might have been the early 2000s. It was better, but there was still like casual homophobia was still something that was very just like a part of the culture. Early internet culture was centered around calling people like gay as an insult, or the F slur. Like that was something that was normalized. The F slur was seen as this is very it's a slur, but it was still among teenagers. It was something that was used a lot. So the contrast between that is how would like a queer relationship, how would a queer person express themselves in that time is going to be totally different than how someone than now.
Well, we see that even with evident. We see that in the movie. Like even like there's like multiple lines by different characters about low shoulder just wearing mascara. Chris Pratt calls them a bunch of fagos.
Right.
And Chip like remarks about their mascara.
But
like, I don't know, sometimes I think the O's were like even more homophobic than like the 90s or 80s even, because it was like, I don't know, just sort of like this conservative ascendancy in the culture at the time, with George Bush and everything.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there was also like this sort of like porno chic that was like everywhere. Like, I remember like girls with like the Playboy bunny on things, and because like the internet was just getting big, and back then it was very easy to find free porn on the internet. Nah, not so much now. But that was like novel to people who had grown up in a world where you had to walk into a store and rent a VHS, or go to the shitty part of town with your face visible to the world and sit in a crummy theater with a bunch of other weirdos.
Yeah, I think there's something about like, because this is something that when I first watched Taxi Driver and when he walks into the porn theater, I think that there was like a disconnect where, oh my God, people went to a theater to watch this with like your face. You went and you talked to somebody and bought a ticket, and you would buy popcorn and candy to go watch a porn movie.
Well, back then they had plots, they had narratives, they had character development. It was a very, very different market. Legally also, it was not as clear whether they could even be doing this. So they had to like hype up the artistic level of it, so it would more likely have free speech protection.
Right.
But no, like this was the 2000s. It was, the era of this sort of very contradictory, but in a way coherent, because it's all patriarchal, sort of Puritanism, abstinence only sex education in school, and also bare midriffs and visible thongs in, your lowrider jeans. It was a very confused era.
Yeah. It is a both horny and puritanical simultaneously era.
Because this movie was released at Obama wasn't even,
this was his first year.
Yeah.
But we weren't.
You're so deeply in Bush culture. Yeah.
Still, digesting the Bush era while this was coming out, which I do think is kind of where its timing was like. Why I think it is, while being in the 2000s, now able to kind of comment on the 2000s, is because it's right at the end of it. It's able to look back on the decade now and kind of be like, okay, what happened?
Yeah, and I think you see that with like some later 80s films, especially. There's sort of like, early 80s films have some of that holdover grittiness from the 70s, but like mid 80s films feel very 80s. And by the end, like some 80s films feel like very consciously, oh, we're in this era that will be known as the 1980s forever.
Starting to prefigure the irony of the 90s too.
Yeah. That was another big thing in the 2000s, was the 80s nostalgia. But we have not escaped from that. We've just added on 90s and now aughts nostalgia.
It's like somebody canceled the future or something. I don't know.
I don't know. Someone should write a book about that.
Yeah.
No. Josiah, did you hear? History is over. It ended.
There's no alternative.
That's why we were so messed up in the 2000s, because, oh shit, history has risen from the grave.
Yeah, well, right, because the 90s are the this end of history. This is supposed to be the end result of everything, is this society I live in. But yes, it's like economically prosperous, but it sucks and I hate it.
Yeah,
that's like the 90s thing. And then the 2000s thing is like, okay, what do we do when history's happening, but we don't have the concept of history anymore?
Yeah. And I listened to your zombie video or audio essay recently, and that was struck me. And the idea of the lost generation too in Japan versus here too. That's also why Jennifer's Body resonates so much, because it's just sort of this listless generation that has nothing to look forward to other than things getting worse. Do we want to talk about mimetic desire and mimetic rivalry?
Yeah, you have a specifically like Girardian read on like kind of the ending, right?
Yeah, no, because I mean, he's my guy. I need to reclaim Girard for the left from Peter Thiel.
Yeah, it's not doing too great for Gerard's PR right now that his biggest guy is
Yeah.
JD Vance, but
Unlike Low Shoulder, he cannot pull off the guy liner.
that is true.
But yeah, no, that's kind of my take on this, is that it is, I mean, Girard would say everything's probably susceptible to a Girardian reading because, the whole scapegoat mechanism and mimetic rivalry is how we work. But you see that with Jennifer's, jealousy of Needy, and every time she expresses interest in a boy, Jennifer's like, oh, now I like him.
Yeah.
And, she does that with Colin, R.I.P. Colin. You never lived long enough to get away to college and start HRT. And you see that with Chip, too. Like, she doesn't really like Chip at all until she thinks, oh, Needy likes him, and that's the way to get back at Needy. So I want him too. We see the same with Needy, who, lets Jennifer basically decide how she dresses and how she acts. But this sort of mimetic rivalry creates conflict because when you have the same, Gerard would say you see someone, they desire something, you desire that thing too, then your model becomes your rival, and that creates tension.
Yeah.
So what we have in Devil's Kettle going on is this sort of Girardian crisis where this entity, the succubus, is overturning the sort of social order. We see the parents are powerless to protect their kids. Every single parent in this movie is absolutely useless and has nothing but impotent bravado and selfishness. And we see the boys are now the victims of sort of random violence, which, is sexual in a way. They're lured to their deaths, seductively and then consumed. And Needy is the scapegoat, and she's prefigured as that. She's an outsider. She's the only one who sort of questions the narrative about the whole bar burning down. And that way she's sort of like a local 9/11 truther. Her mom has that dream about her being nailed to a tree, just like JC.
Oh man, I didn't even think of that. Oh my god.
Yeah. And in the end, she is the one who basically takes all the society's sins on herself, getting blamed for all the murders. But, she's a Girardian scapegoat in that she refutes the scapegoat mechanism. The narrative insists on her innocence. She escapes from the collective murder of her and ultimately unveils the sort of unseen violence that is taking place within the community. She talks about the Devil's Kettle, the weird sort of waterfall and like holes that the water goes into and no one knows where it drains out of. She finds the knife that the band threw in after they murdered Jennifer with it. And she takes that knife back to the source. So that's sort of Girard's take on Jesus, is that he reveals the scapegoat mechanism and forever destroys it, basically, by every time the community's like, oh, things are going bad, we should all gang up on the one minority, that you think, oh wait, that's Jesus. We're killing Jesus again. Dang, we shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she is the Girardian savior of this town, both by killing Jennifer and by killing Low Shoulder, the ultimate source of the evil.
Yeah, this is a great reading on it that I would not have caught remotely.
No.
Another aspect of this review I found really, really insightful. So.
I kind of want to watch the movie again with that framing, specifically because that works. I was a little like a Girardian reaction. Initially a little skeptical, I'll be honest, but it kind of works. It fits.
I was thinking as we were going into this, I'm like, the only bummer is, having Vita on and we're not talking about a religious subject. What was I thinking? We'd find a way to get there.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of religious imagery in the film.
Yeah.
Needy's family is obviously Catholic. There's like a little holy water stoop by her front door with the crucifix over it. Her mom crosses herself. Colin's, goth emo kids have rosaries on them all the time, but he has one in his car in addition to on his hand when he's killed, and his mom has one at the funeral, an identical one. So presumably he's Catholic too. Needy says a prayer to St. Jude before she jumps in the pool to fight with Jennifer.
Oh, that's good. That's a good detail. I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, there was in the beginning when she's talking about how she gets all these letters, because she's like seen as a famous serial killer now. You see all the letters and like stuffed animals and stuff that got sent to her on the floor. There's a crucifix. There's a statue of a saint, and I think it might be Saint Rita, who, like Saint Jude, is patron saint of hopeless causes.
Okay.
So there's a lot of Catholic imagery in there. There's that sort of sacrificial theme, but not a lot really happens with it. I mean, like, the demon isn't vanquished by, an exorcism or holy water. It's vanquished by a box cutter, which again is another 9/11 reference for those who forgot.
Oh man, I didn't make the connection. That was a 9/11 reference, though. Jesus, yeah, there is so much going on in this movie.
I think that's what's interesting for me when I initially went into it, was that I went into the movie knowing that, oh yeah, this is like a deeper movie than you might initially expect, and then finding out that how it was advertised, when this is a smart movie. The script, it's not just, it's not just smart in that it has punchy dialogue and that it's structured well. It's smart in that, like, thematically, this is a very multi-layered movie that isn't just that its characters are treated, all of them, even as awful as Low Shoulders are, they're still like good villains for this movie, and there's the movie still treats them all with like, yeah, no, these are all intelligent characters and are people, and they make choices that like make sense for them.
I also think there's just a lot of this is like, there's a lot of the like over the top jokes where you can watch it and recognize that's a joke. And then there's a lot of like subtle jokes, I feel like, as you watch. So like you mentioned the parents, one of the biggest laughs that I got out of this movie, if I read this correctly, is that the mom shows up 35 minutes into the film. Needy's mom does not appear at any point in the movie until or prior to that, and then shows up 35 minutes in as if she's just had a mom this whole time. And it, like, on this second viewing, made me laugh out loud when the mom shows up out of nowhere, because I'm like, who the fuck is this? Like,
oh, but it's so perfect though for teen movies and for horror movies.
And she even has a line like, "One day I'm not going to be there to protect you," and it's like, you're never so fucking good. There.
It's like, such a good, like, underlining the joke in case you didn't catch it.
Like, lady, I didn't even know you existed until you just showed up right now.
I was a latchkey kid for a lot of high school, and my parents were more involved in my life.
Does she shows up like maybe one other time in the movie, if that?
Yeah, prom night. That's
prom
the only
night.
time.
Okay, there we go.
She's styling, I say that with as much quotation marks possible, Needy's hair before she gives her like the big poofy the poofy shoulder dress.
Yeah, only there to take pictures for the formal. That's it.
Yep.
And visibly in a work uniform.
I mean, like, isn't that fits perfectly with both horror and with teen movies. With teen movies, you can see the parents a little bit more, but it's a common trope in horror that if there are kids or teenagers in it, the parents are useless. They're not. They are not a source of safety in the narrative.
Yeah. I think it's playing on that. I think that trope and underlining it in a way that makes it more noticeable.
Well, I think it also, that's why it sort of resonates a lot with the millennial viewer, because it's like the boomers are useless and they haven't done anything to make the world better. And in fact, all they care about is themselves. Like, you have Colin's friends who, are cringy teenage goths and very melodramatic, but to be fair, their friend did just get eaten. And his mom is basically like, fuck you, I have the monopoly on pain today. And it's like, no, you don't, lady.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's important to what the movie's doing too, because another theme throughout it is, I'm always obsessed with looking for like end of history kind of vibes. I was thinking a lot of that with the hopelessness being the constant theme. I want you hopeless. Hopeless being spray painted on, I think it's in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
There's just this constant like reminder that it's hopeless. Things aren't going to get better. Like that's like constantly weighing down on all the air characters as just kind of the background noise. And I think that's important to like it capturing that moment really well. And I think it might play a part in why the movie's kind of had a resurgence as well. Because while the War on Terror era, I was probably too young for most of it to fully feel that, but I had that hopelessness. Like, I also think we're seeing a lot of like history repeating itself within the 2020s now. Zoomers, are now coming of age looking at ongoing war in Israel and Ukraine. There's the same carnage on your screen constantly in the background, and just a real sense that there's no hope here. There's no future. Yet again, it kind of has that same thing. And so I think there's a degree this movie probably really resonates with Zoomer audiences as well. And I think that's kind of nice about it too, that it's like a millennial Zoomer meeting, in its reappraisal. I don't know, a similar hopelessness.
It's two generations that are living in the wake of history did not end, and that is much to the detriment of everyone involved. Mm-hmm. We are living in the promise of the promise that the 90s was delivering on was a lie. There is no guarantees for us, and this dream of this safe, secure America and this encompassing liberal world order isn't true. And it's living with that through line through the movie. It's hopeless. And trying to, find something, trying to find hope in hopelessness is, the mantra that millennials had to, who grew up in a pre 9/11 world, saw that, and then saw, what came after. While Zoomers, we grew up with this is just what life is. And then fighting, so things were like different before. That feels like a completely different world. Alien to my own.
No, another great and a recent horror film that deals with that is I saw The TV Glow, which
still haven't seen it. I really need to.
I have to see it.
You're bad trans allies for not having seen it yet.
God damn it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I'll watch it tomorrow.
But it deals with the 90s nostalgia and how shitty life has turned out since then. But also, the 90s weren't that great. It's just they seemed great when you were a kid. And, there were cool shows on Nickelodeon every Saturday night. And you didn't have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a degree of economic prosperity that was, happening for maybe the middle class, maybe, that, but like not really the majority of people.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, as a middle class, American child, it was a pretty sweet time to be a child. I mean, the princes of the Middle Ages would have killed to be able to eat Lunchables and play Pokemon.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a degree of that, but then there's also that background radiation of like, like that's all 90s is also the era of like terrorism, like it was
and there was a feeling that things were wrong, but it felt more directed as sort of like petty bullshit, like, being mad at, Bill Clinton or like things that didn't seem as dire. It was like, okay, maybe the rainforest is going away. Maybe this global warming thing is real and might be bad for us like 50, 60 years from now, instead of, oh, wait, it's October. Why am I sweating?
Yeah, it seems to be getting hotter. I don't know.
Yeah. But no, I think it's very telling that the demon feeds on hopelessness, like almost as much as the actual flesh. She needs her prey to be scared and terrified. One thing I did want to bring up, though, a sort of weak spot in the film is, talking about 2000s edginess and, shifting values. Do we think the film has a little bit of, I would say, issue with race, iffiness at times?
I think that's a fair observation. Because I mean, and it's tricky because I think it's self-aware about it a little bit, but maybe not enough fully, because I mean, I think like the most notable one is Ahmet, the first victim, the foreign exchange student, and that he doesn't really get to be a character and dies, and that's probably one of the only colors of character we get, and one of the only real things we hear about him is just Jennifer speculating whether he's circumcised or not.
Right.
Yeah,
I was trying to figure out where he was supposed to be from. I mean, Ahmed is a Muslim name. It's the Turkish spelling of Ahmad. But he's played by Punjabi Indian actor Aman Joel. So, that's
not
it's just sort of like, generic foreign guy. Fitting in a dark way that the first victim of Jennifer's is a Indian guy in a Sikh turban, because there was a lot of, there was a lot of hate crime after 9/11, and a lot of it, directed at anyone who looked remotely Middle Eastern or Muslim, including some Sikh Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So
in that sense, it's there is a degree of smartness to it, but I think maybe you needed to make it more explicit to get there, to do that criticism well without it just being that subtle detail, because then it just kind of feels like a racist afterthought.
I mean, and some of Jennifer's remarks would not fly today, but I think that's also just sort of like was acceptable in the confines of like edgy comedy in the 2000s, and also fits coming out of, pre-transformation, a sort of snarky, bitchy, mean girl, and post-transformation, a literal demon.
Yeah. Like, I definitely think the line is supposed to read as racist. That's what I mean, like it being self-aware. Like, I don't think you're not supposed to think it's racist, but
it's something where it's on purpose, clearly. It's a critique of it. But the fact that Ahmet is like he's not a character.
Yeah.
Because everyone else is.
Yeah. They're given a chance to be characters when Ahmet he's not even given that. Which is, that itself could be a reading of that. That's how overshadowed Ahmet is, in the town, just so quickly, washed over by the other white victims.
Mm-hmm.
He's not even considered one of the murder victims. He's just one of the fire victims officially.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's also, Jennifer sees it like as that's like an opening that he's not going to be. No one's going to look for him because they already think that he's dead.
Marked as an outsider, sacrificial victim, Girardian.
There you go.
Can't keep getting away with this. But it does. It also works for this concept within. The first time that I heard it was in last podcast on the left, but it's also something that's broadly talked about, and that in true crime, and looking at actual murder cases, the concept of the least dead is if you're a minority, they're not going to look into what actually happened to you as much as they will attention will be paid to white victims. That there is like this value that white victims are more valuable than victims of color. So on that hand, that kind of fits in the movie's favor in that way. But it's also that he's not given a chance to be a character, which is a flaw of the movie.
I don't think he gets a line even.
Yeah, and that's kind of a bummer, because I think all the other, murder victims, you have something to hold on to a little bit before they die so that you feel bad about it. You know what I mean?
Even if it's just dumb jock who was sad that his friend got burnt in the bar.
Yeah, like that's a perfect way of introducing that character real quick and then giving you a reason to care about them, because I think your gut reaction with, she's killing the like dumb jock is maybe to cheer that on in the classic high school movie sense. But it's not, he's a grieving kid.
Yeah.
It feels unfair, and it feels cruel. And then with the goth kid Colin, right?
Yeah, he's fully fleshed out, and
he's a whole character.
You feel really bad for him.
Yeah, he really does just think he's gonna have a fun time.
I mean, that's the one mistake he makes. It's like if I drove to like bad part of town where like all the houses are obviously empty and the house is like boarded up and abandoned, I'd be like, okay, yeah, nice joke. I should have thought better than,
Yeah.
hot girl would actually want to do it with me. Time to walk on home.
Yeah, he should have done it.
His dick led him somewhere I wouldn't go with a gun.
Many such cases.
Many such cases. His problem was having too much confidence in this specific situation, which is a funny reoccurring trend with the male characters in this too. Because I really love Chip's whole shit during the sex scene with Needy, where he's like assuming, like when she's freaked out and all that, he's like, "Oh, was I too big?" And the thing is, he delivers it with such a sincerity. It doesn't feel fully shitty. It feels like, oh, this guy really does think that was the problem.
No, yeah.
Oh,
Chip,
buddy.
Chip,
Oh, Chip.
I can't hate Chip. I mean, he's a teenage boy. He's dumb, but he's also like genuinely nice and seems to like genuinely like Needy and like treat her nice. Again, that's how this movie sort of subverts a lot of slasher logic. It's like he doesn't seem to deserve to die. I mean, none of the boys really deserve to die, but Chip especially, it's like, okay, his only crime is like not believing Needy when she's like, hey, my friend turned into a demon, which, why would any teenager believe?
Right, yeah.
He's kind of a damsel at the end when you think about it.
Yeah. Because Needy arrives and saves him.
And
tries to.
Well, I was gonna say it's not a successful. An attempt was made, but he ain't alive by the end of it.
He leaves behind his corsage, and that's how she finds him. And the orchid matches the color of her dress. It's like, again, so it is a rich text that rewards being revisited.
Oh man, I'm already itching for like maybe a rewatch next year or something. Like maybe make this a tradition or something.
And I need to see Lisa Frankenstein because,
Yeah, I do too.
Yes.
Diablo Cody.
See Lisa Frankenstein.
Yeah. We love you, Diablo Cody.
You deserved so much better, both with this movie and Lisa Frankenstein. That is, I'm gutted that this is now 2 for 2 of these movies just not doing well.
Oh man. Well, and I also want to, we're emphasizing, of course, Diablo Cody, but I do want to give a shout out to the director on it, Karen Kusama, who I think is really underrated because she also directed The Invitation, which is a movie I love.
Oh gosh,
I think that's a pretty it's a good, just slow burn kind of suspense drama thriller. I don't know. It's good in that sense of just like it's a gaslighting movie almost, like that. You not that that's what the theme, but just in the sense of the main character, you genuinely cannot tell for the whole movie whether they are correctly reading the situation or not. And I think that. I think it's really well done. Yeah.
She was supposed to direct at one point a Dracula film.
Oh yeah.
Don't know if that's happening still. I know she was also executive producer for Yellow Jackets, which I've not heard much of other than seeing, some horror people talk about it, but I would like to see if that's any good.
Yeah, Karen Kusama also is directing that Dead Ringers remake series with the female leads instead of the male leads.
I need to see that. The original was so good. So
I love the original, yeah.
But no, if this movie came out now, it would have been a smash hit.
It would have done a lot better.
Oh yeah. It again, it's hard to watch this movie and think, oh wait, this wasn't just instantly like, this didn't instantly do well, because it's a well-written, very well-made movie that like is smart and funny and gory. Like, this is something that if you release this now, it would become an instant, not a cult classic. It would just become a classic. It would do well financially and critically, and would, become like the thing that people talk about on Tumblr and Twitter. and the blue sky everywhere. That it would just be like the movie that horror fandom would talk about for like a couple months. But instead, it was initially just rejected as being wrong.
Yeah. Well, and yeah. I mean, not to keep beating the same point over and over here, but I mean, and it's because it was marketed as Twilight for boys.
This is not a movie for boys. I mean, I'm glad you gentlemen appreciate it.
No, but it's a very girly movie. I mean,
Yeah, I feel like the marketing department in charge for this movie had to have not seen the movie, or if they did see the movie, they were given like a mandate that this is what the movie has to be advertised as. It doesn't. This is the demographic. Teenage boys like horror movies. They like Megan Fox. That's who we have to advertise this movie to, irregardless of the actual text
content
of the movie.
Well, in a way, that kind of mirrors like Jennifer in a way, because that the sort of pop culture view of a succubus is sexy demon lady, and the succubus in this one is a horrifying literal man-eater. And so I think that was sort of the bait and switch that turned off a lot of audiences, which was the same bait and switch that turned off, as in killed most of the guys.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting in the sense because so much of the movie is also dealing with the way that Jennifer doesn't just sexualize herself, but is sexualized. And then you see it in the marketing campaign of this exact thing happening, that whether she likes it or not, she's sexualized. She doesn't have a say in the matter,
I mean, even I believe that it didn't happen, which thank God, but the fact that it was optioned was a marketing campaign for this movie was to have Megan Fox like advertise it on an amateur porn website.
Jeez, like why?
It's it's so that's so just blatantly like I don't know what's a better
there are more sexually explicit movies coming out at this time.
Yes, I don't like
I just like
reading about the production of this movie is maddening because everyone who made this movie got it. But once it was finished, the duty of selling this movie was to people who've only seen one movie before, and it's the people who advertised the first Transformers movie.
Seeing Megan Fox in a film, I'm getting a lot of Transformers vibes from this.
So this is another Transformers, right? I see there's less explosions, but you gotta appeal to different. There's some teenage boys that prefer more blood than explosions. So I see what you're trying to do. No, I wish that this movie was advertised better so that it could have gotten the critical and financial recognition that it deserves, but I am happy that it has gotten the reappraisal that it is now. That I think that now it's pretty well considered within, the horror community as this is a good movie, and a movie worthy not just like viewing it as it is, but also as Vita has displayed through a Girardian reading of it that this movie has layers. It's intelligent. It does it is talking about things like it's talking about gender, it's talking about sexuality, it's talking about even Vita showed it has religious ties to it, not just through the obvious that it's about a satanic Maroon 5 wannabe band committing a human sacrifice in small town Minnesota. It's a smart movie that doesn't dumb itself down for the audience, but it also is very camp and having a lot of fun with it.
Well, yeah, I think I think it had a kind of bold decision for so much of the satire to be aimed specifically at 9/11 grief. And I think that was kind of a shocking thing to do at this time. That's kind of why I'm amazed no one talks about it, because it's not just that it's ridiculing all this 9/11 imagery coming up constantly, but it's ridiculing the culture after 9/11. Because I don't know if we had formally said that the band gets this like reputation as the people who saved everyone at the dive bar, that they'd saved, and so because of that, everyone talks about them like they're the troops.
Yeah.
Like they're so
heroes.
funny.
They're heroes. And like I said, Needy is kind of like a truther, because she's like, no, they didn't save anyone. And, she's like shunned for questioning the narrative. And their homeroom teacher too says, we can't let the fire win. And Jennifer's like, it already did. But that sort of gets to like the stupidity of calling it the war on terror, because it's like,
right,
you're going to fight against a tactic, that's like the war on flanking maneuvers,
right,
the war on artillery. It was a dark time then. It was, basically, we got to do X or the terrorists win. Like there was a push for people to go out and shop because the economy was doing bad, and you have to go out and shop till you drop, or, you're supporting Osama bin Laden.
That's right. We cannot let them win.
This is bringing up so much. Growing up in I just view this growing up as, that's just what the world is like.
Yeah,
that's like
that's just how things are.
That's just how things are. I still remember watching on our box TV like the invasion in at that point that would have been not the invasion, but that would have been the boondoggled occupation of Iraq and the war in Afghanistan, and it was so normalized. That's just how it is. Angry people on TV that my parents watch when it's not time for Nickelodeon yet. Invader Zim isn't on yet, and they get to watch this boring news stuff. But soon I get to watch Invader Zim, so that's all that matters.
But yeah, no, it was dire times, and I'd say I'm glad they're over with, but we're kind of in dire times now. So
yeah,
I guess that's just life.
Yeah,
I can only hope that maybe we're a little bit more aware and better than. I can't really. I can't. I will only be able to know in upon reflection. But I pray that we're doing better.
Well, on that wonderful note, maybe we should move toward wrapping up here.
Yeah.
What a downer note for
I mean, that's
Jennifer's
kind of the movie.
Yeah, true.
I mean, what can you say? You can't really exhort people to imitate Needy in this film.
No, not legally anyway. I mean, I think you can watch the film and come to your own conclusions. But no, let's do some quick, I don't know, just final thoughts, I guess, like final statement on the film, and then wrap up here. So Vita, final thoughts on the film.
Oh gosh, I think it's great. I think it's really funny. It captures so many aspects of teenage life as a girl, life in the 2000s, and it's one day I need to have a film class for the youngins and have the subject be the 2000s through film, and have this along with Ginger Snaps and Teeth and Mean Girls as the syllabus for it.
That's a great idea. Jackal, final thoughts on the film.
Yeah, I liked it the first time that I saw it, but I wasn't, again, aware of, the context around it. And I think that knowing that and reading more of the recent literature that's been written about it, and the context that the movie is present, I think that I came out liking this even more than I did when I saw it. And I think I'm going to have to watch it again, especially with the Girardian reading, to see, all right, how do I fit these together? This is a great movie. I hope that this episode, if you haven't seen Jennifer's Body yet, I hope this episode convinces you, even though this spoiled it, but you can watch the movie without. I
think it's so dense. Actually, I don't think it would ruin it.
I don't think that this really ruins it. I think that this is a movie that, even if you know what happens, I think that the ride is still worthwhile. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. It's funny, it's smart, it's gory. The actors do a great job. You hear Patrick Starr scream that he's going to cut someone's balls off and nail it to his door. It's Lance Henriksen is in the movie for like a brief second. Would have been cool if he was in it longer, but the cameo's appreciated nonetheless. And J.K. Simmons has an amazing wig on.
Oh gosh, and a prosthetic hand, right?
Oh, right.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I loved the movie. I think it does a fantastic job at being a really multi-layered movie, and I really appreciate that there's just like feels like 1,000 ways to read the film. There's a lot you can pull out of it, and I think it's a really rich text that got screwed over, and I'm glad it's had a reappraisal. So, and before we wrap up here, Vita, is there anything you want to plug for anyone listening?
I don't have a podcast of my own. As I mentioned, I have 2 episodes that I did with Annie Rose Malamet on her Girls, Guts, and Giallo pod. One you can only get the half of on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. The rest is on her Patreon. And the Passion of the Christ one, where we talk about that awful, another emblematic 2000s film, but a very awful one. Is completely paywalled. So if you want to hear why Mel Gibson is going to hell, you have to sign up.
I will say I listened to the Wicker Man episode, and it's very good. So
Thank you.
yeah, it's fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like what you heard, make sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps out with the algorithm. If you really like the show, consider supporting the show on Patreon. And hey, one of the benefits you get of supporting this show on Patreon is you get your name read out at the end of every episode. So, without further ado, this episode was brought to you by our lovely patrons, who include... I drink corn syrup. Yum. I am once again Leo Zachary Dickinson, Philip Cozy, Vita Breva, 2007, Christian Rock, Aaron Thompson, Attention Francis, Derek Hale, Gavin Aronson, Joseph Gross, Kyle Gannis, Metric Conversion, Moss, Nathan Thiessen, Racecar, Regular Sized Horse, parentheses, Small, Robert Heilman, Stephen aka Spike Stonehand, The Worst of All Possible Worlds, Vicky Sutton, and of course, Chris Barker. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And I'm really sorry, but this is Through the Trees by Low Shoulder.
All alone in an empty room, nothing left but the memories of when I had my best friend, and I don't know how we ended up here. I don't know, but it's never been so clear. We made a mistake, dear, and I see the broken glass in front of me. I see your shadow hanging over me, and your face I can see through the trees. I will find you. I will heal the ruins left inside you, 'cause I'm still here breathing now. I'm still here breathing now. I'm still here breathing now, until I'm set free. Go quiet through the trees. And I remember how we used to talk about the places we would go when we grew up, and all that we were gonna find. And I remember watching our seeds grow, and how you cried when you saw the first leaf show. The love was pouring from your eyes. So can you see the branches hanging over me? Can you see the love you left inside of me and my face? Can you see through the trees? I will find you. your own and take my eyes to guide you home. 'Cause I'm still here breathing now. I'm still here breathing now. I'm still here breathing now. And I'm still here. 'Cause I'm still here breathing now. I'm still here breathing now. I'm still here breathing now. And I'm still here, Lord. 'Cause I'm still here breathing now. I'm still here breathing now. I'm still here breathing now. And I'm still here. And you're not coming back. I'm still here. And you're not coming back. I'm still here. 'Cause you're not coming back. I'm still here. Until I'm set free. I'll go quiet through the trees.